He ignored the pleas of the mayor and the police chief to deploy the National Guard in Minneapolis and said, "You're not highly trained soldiers, you're 19-year-olds who cook." That's what he said. "You're 19-year-olds who cook." That's a pretty famous statement.
But during a phone call with Walz and other officials shortly after the protests, Trump commended Walz's response.
I know Governor Walz is on the phone, and we spoke, and I fully agree with the way he handled it the last couple of days. I asked him to do that. But, Tim, it showed the incredible difference between your great state yesterday and the day before compared to the first few days.
Donald Trump has been claiming that he's the one that sent in the National Guard, but it was actually Walz who gave the order.
At that point in time, I did something unprecedented. I mobilized the entire Minnesota National Guard, and that's what the president was alluding to with the size of the force was capable.
As president, I stood with the National Guard as you saved Minneapolis.
President Trump staying largely silent, except on Twitter, as protests rage nationwide. ABC News has learned with protesters gathering at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Friday, the president briefly took shelter in an underground bunker. It's unclear what specifically prompted the immediate move to the bunker, which serves as a secure shelter that presidents have used in the past during terrorist attacks.
We've just had to run about a block as police moved in. We've been fired at with rubber bullets. My cameraman has been hit. We've also seen tear gas being used. Here we go, they're moving through again. This is exactly what it looks like.
Press, let's go. Press, let's go. Come on. Guys, we gotta go.
Saved Kenosha and saved Washington, D.C. I saved them. If I didn't override what they wanted to do and what tradition is, those tradition is, those places would have been, we would have lost every monument in Washington. You know, they came into Washington and they were very rambunctious. They liked to pull the statues down, some of these beautiful statues.
Former President Donald Trump is set to host a gala at his golf club in New Jersey to honor and celebrate the defendants charged for their involvement in the January 6th Capitol riot. The event, known as the J6 Awards Gala, is scheduled for September 5th at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey.
And then they hit Abraham Lincoln. I said, all right, that's the end of that.
We need to hold the doors of the Capitol. I need police support.
And I found there was a bill from the early 1900s. We don't do bills like that anymore. This said, if you touch government property, statues, monuments of any kind, you will serve 10 years with no probation, no early getting out.
Guilty on all counts. Donald J. Trump, the 45th president of the United States, was found guilty late today in a New York courthouse on all 34 counts of falsifying business records to conceal payments to a porn star just before the 2016 election.
You go to jail for 10 years.
Mr. President, I would love to ask you about January 6th. You've called yourself the candidate of law and order. When Time Magazine asked you if you would consider pardoning all the rioters, you said, yes, absolutely. Sure. You called them patriots. 140 police officers were assaulted that day. Their injuries included broken bones, at least one officer lost an eye, one had 2 cracked ribs, 2 smashed spinal discs, another had a stroke. Were the people who assaulted those 140 officers, including those I just mentioned, patriots who deserve pardons?
Well, let me bring it back to modern day. Like about 5 days ago, we had an attack on the Capitol, a horrible attack on the Capitol. You saw the people that were protesting and spraying these incredible monuments, bells, lions, all these magnificent limestone and granite with red paint, red spray paint that will never actually come off, especially on the limestone. It will never, I'm a builder, I know about this stuff. It'll never, you'll see it in 100 years from now. They viciously attacked our government. They fought with police. They fought with them much more openly than I saw on January 6th. What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed that city?
But sir, my question is on those.
What's going to happen to the people that tried to
those rioters who assaulted officers.
You have to
would you pardon
what's
those
going to
people?
happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just they were convicted by a very tough system. They were. How come the people that tried to burn down Minneapolis?
I know Governor Walz is on the phone, and we spoke, and I fully agree with the way he handled it the last couple of days.
Very simple. It was beautifully stated. It was like one paragraph, and it had dust on it. It was dusty. Nobody used it because we wouldn't do that because we become very soft. They ought to release the J6 hostages. They've suffered enough. I call them hostages. Some people call them prisoners. I call them hostages. There has never been a group of people treated so harshly or unfairly, and it will be my great honor to pardon the peaceful January 6th protesters. They only go after political opponents. They don't do anything like murderers. Those guys are safe. Drug dealers, no problem. But political opponents, they go after. So this was in very bad. It was a very old bill. And I had a news conference.
When you're ready, sir.
Yep, we'll be right behind
You tell me when.
When you're ready, sir.
Who's behind me?
He's gone around. We're all clear now.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had a election, let me say. And they were all over They wanted to take down the Jefferson Memorial. They wanted to take it down. They were heading that way. They were actually heading that way. We had them all stopped, but they were heading that way. It's like fighting a war.
At least $18.2 million. That's how much taxpayer money went to deploying the National Guard to the district for protests in early June. And that number is likely to get quite a bit higher. The Guard still can't tell us how much is spent on travel costs for this mission. Here at home, we've learned the millions it costs to have soldiers and airmen in the district breaks down to about $531 per guardsman per day. That figure only includes pay, allowances, and per diem, like lodging and meals. As we wait for officials to add up the travel costs, we do know guardsmen use military planes and buses to get here. They came from 11 states as far away as Utah to join DC Guardsmen. While the general described the mission to help law enforcement with civil unrest as,
"It's a good news story,"
I'm right here, there have been questions about how the Guard operated in the district. For example, right now, the DC National Guard is investigating whether a military helicopter flew at inappropriately low altitudes and whether they followed safety standards and flying procedures.
And I went out to a news conference. I announced anybody that touches any of our monuments or statues goes to jail for 10 years. Young Americans experience the breathtaking beauty of the Grand Canyon when their eyes widen in amazement as Old Faithful bursts into the sky. When they gaze upon Yosemite's towering sequoias, their love of country grows stronger, and they know that every American has truly a duty to preserve this wondrous inheritance. If they're innocent, I would pardon them. When they gaze upon Yosemite